Welcome to Essential Ingredients, powered by NextGen Purpose. EI serves up thoughtful conversations with industry leaders and pioneers who support a regenerative future for our food system. The stories shared by our guests are meant to spark curiosity and inspire informed global change. Good morning and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today is Marc Washington. He is the CEO and founder of Supergut. Welcome, Marc.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Justine.
Oh, I'm pleased to have you, and I'm pleased to learn about your product. You know, personally and professionally, I'm excited. I'm very curious to always learn more about the gut and how it affects how we feel and the food that we put in our system and how it affects the gut and the microbiome and all those things. And so this is just an exciting conversation for me.
Awesome. We're going to get into it.
So for those that are not familiar with Supergut, Marc, if you'd be kind enough to just give us your 30-second pitch on what Supergut is.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the highest level, we are a gut health nutrition brand, right? And so we create really tasty, convenient, and delicious foods that are actually superfoods for your gut. So on the other side, that literally clinically validated that change your gut in a positive way for your health with an intended outcome, right? And so things like better weight management, better blood sugar control, even better sleep, mood, and energy, those things are connected to your gut as well. So we know we can impact all of those, but we do it through food as opposed to supplements or probiotics or some of the other pathways. We're very much a food-based gut health business.
So thank you for sharing that. That clarifies a bunch of questions. It also begs a few more.
Okay.
You had launched it and said, when you first spoke, that it is a food that helps your gut, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And weight management and all these things. And you also said that you had some clinical trials or clinical.
That's right.
Okay,
yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because
absolutely.
First of all, clinical trials are really expensive.
Yes, they are.
Few and far between.
Yes, they are.
But for me, it's really an exciting conversation because I think that I like to look at food as a lifestyle as opposed to as medicine, because if we can look at food and incorporate it into our daily regimen, we may have a better shot at being healthier overall and not having to wait till we get sick. So not react, right? We go to doctors because we get sick.
Absolutely.
So this is more preventative.
Absolutely.
And so I'd love to hear a little bit about what you found.
Yeah. So for me, it goes back to a bit of the ethos for the company. And the reason why I started this was, really an aspiration to do more through food. Like, I absolutely believe as well that food is a lifestyle. Like, people love to eat. I love to eat, right? And so, but I think the path towards better health is through food. But I also think at the same time that we have to do more, because when you look at chronic health conditions, they're getting worse every single year, right? And so despite the advances in technology and science and medicine and supplements and food, right, we're less healthy. And so my idea is, how can we actually leverage food? Yes, it's a lifestyle, but actually be that preventative medicine, so to speak. So food is medicine. And in order to do that, I wanted to take a differentiated approach, like truly functional food, not just better for you, but literally functional. And part and parcel with that was taking a different approach from a science standpoint and from a clinical evidence. And so as opposed to just the traditional food and supplement path, maybe looking at a clinical research study here or there and sprinkling a little ingredient into something, like, we literally have gone deep in the science. Like, first, it started with formulating our products and literally looking through hundreds of clinical studies to formulate our prebiotic blend that goes into our products. But the next level, which you mentioned is just very rare in this space, is to actually go through clinical validation. So we did a clinical study on our products. So it was more taking a page that you see in medicine and biotech, but actually applying that in a food context, in a food setting.
So before you go any further, what prompted you to want to take that initiative and do the clinical trial?
Yeah, so it really does go back to the founding of the company. And so it's hard to separate this from my inspiration and why I decided to do this. And so I've been in a space throughout my career. It's what I know and love, like helping people feel better, live healthier is what gets me going. But it reached another level for me, and why I decided to start this company was actually my sister, and she struggled with her health, her metabolic syndrome, and she passed away far too young. And that struck a chord in me. It just really lit a fire to do something different that could have a fundamental impact on human health, right? Not just better for you. And the way that I felt confident in being able to do that was taking a more evidence-based, a deeper science-based approach. And part and parcel with doing that means actually going out and validating that this works. So it's not just making a claim, right, like a food or supplement company, but actually going out and proving that this works so that we can feel confident that we deliver on the promise of truly being a functional food. And so it literally is part of the ethos of the company. It's something that I aligned on with my very original investors, a group out of the Bay Area called the Production Board, and Dave Friedberg's the founder. And so we aligned at the very outset, like, let's take a very science-based approach to feeding your gut in a way that can change health. So it was always part of the foundation. And so then we did, like, it was actually published earlier this year, we did a gold standard clinical study. And so that's like randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled, like all those things that you hear about these studies that make it really legitimate. We went through that process. We had close to 200 individuals consuming Supergut, and we used our shakes for the study. And we tracked them over the course of 3 months to just measure various different aspects of health and wellness. Like, we looked at an overall quality of life metric, like how are they feeling, how they the quality of life, how it's improving. And in particular, because we recruited individuals who were suffering with their health, like with elevated blood sugar and overweight or obese, and we saw a significant movement in quality of life. But we also tracked hard kind of clinical outcomes as well, right? So the thing that we saw that moved the most was blood sugar. And you're probably familiar, like, healthy control, not letting your blood sugar spike and crash and stay elevated, is literally one of the leading kind of factors for staying healthy, right? And so we saw a significant reduction in average blood sugar levels for those who are on a consistent diet with Supergut, literally on par with the leading diabetes medication. But this is through a tasty shake that people actually enjoy. So back to the lifestyle part of it.
So you mentioned something, first of all, that's amazing. And I'm so impressed, because not many of these organizations and these companies that I talk to really go through that process. More and more people are doing it, but it's a hard process. It's a long process, and it's expensive.
And it's hard to show a result when you have a placebo. Like what we did, we had another shake, same amount of protein, same amount of calories, right? But it was just missing our unique prebiotic blend, because we wanted to show that really was the differentiating factor that drove the blood sugar, but also helped maintain healthier weight, healthier blood pressure, and then overall quality of life. So these things connected between the gut and the brain, like sleep quality and energy and mood, all moved in a positive direction for those who were consuming Supergut.
I want to try it all now.
You should. It fundamentally works. We proved it, and now it's actually been published in a peer-reviewed leading medical journal. We're like literally one of the first foods, like commercially available foods, that they've ever published research on, because it is quite rare to get for a food company to do that and to get the level of result that we saw.
So before we move on, I just want to go back to something you called it, functional food.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone to the doctor and they've recommended functional food,
okay,
and these blends and whatever. Mm-hmm. How does functional food differ from medical food?
Mm-hmm.
And what is that category made up of?
Yeah, so defined functional food is essentially an umbrella of foods that serve more than just the function of feeding you for nourishment. Like, it's intended to provide a health outcome, one that you can feel and ideally measure. It's not a formal FDA category, but it's more of a broad general category of foods and supplements that fit this category of actually moving and the end point, right, for you in your health beyond just nutrition. Now, functional food is different than another class. It's called the next level of medical food, which really veers away from more lifestyle. This is just part of nutrition, but it happens to have function. And that truly is like for treating a chronic condition. It typically is not very, enjoyable or as convenient, but or as tasty, right? And that is a specific formal regulated category of foods that fall into that medical food. So like tube feeding, formulas, things of that nature typically fall into the medical food. We actually looked at this at the very outset because I knew what I was creating was truly functional, but I also was like, let's also be as preventative as possible, and let's also make this enjoyable, right? I want to make this habitual, something that is part of a lifestyle. And so I was like, let's very much stay within food, but let's just elevate the level of function that we provide with these foods.
So my question to you is, because you've done these trials and because you've gotten some efficacy, that you can prove some efficacy scientifically around this, would you consider then incorporating that into medical food down the road as you get more and more trials underway? Is that something
it's a possibility? I would say we have the option value of going down that path because we have built this product on such a base of clinical validation. I would say it is an option. It's not the plan, like currently. Like honestly, like there's something in me that's kind of, I think, was something unique about my perspective is, although I truly fundamentally believe and invested in science, and I truly believe in function, and I absolutely want to impact public health. At the same time, I come from a consumer, right? And I'm both individually as well as professionally, like how can we make this habit, right? And so lifestyle, that gene pulls me so hard that as I think about the future and the ways that we'll grow and expand, it is about making these products more accessible, like not less, right? And more things that can be more commonly incorporated into your daily diet and routine. So if there's a direction that we pull, I would say it tends to go more in a lifestyle orientation, but just with an elevated level of function that you can expect from your normal foods.
Thank you for explaining that and giving us your perspective on it, because I think that many times people just are not sure what functional food is and what medical food is. And I think clarifying that and understanding the difference can empower people to make the right change for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you started this business, you're not too far in, but you're far enough that I see your packaging behind you, really beautifully designed. And
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
How many SKUs do you have at the moment?
Yeah, so we have 3 different product lines, all of which are based on this foundational prebiotic blend, right? And I can define that if it would be helpful.
Well, I was also going to say, maybe you can clarify what your I mean, obviously I don't want any trade secrets, but what makes your prebiotic blend special? Yeah,
for sure. We're very open in talking about this. I'd say, so it starts obviously, as we talked about, so Supergut is all about gut health, but it's opposed to more of a supplemental approach, more of a probiotic driven approach. We actually focus on the food that nourishes the good bugs that are in your gut, the prebiotics, right? And prebiotics are largely found in high fiber plant foods. That's the primary sources of prebiotics. There are other foods that also have prebiotics in them as well, but by definition, a prebiotic bypasses your digestion, and it has an effect where it actually nourishes the trillions of microbes in your gut, right? I mean, a lot of people focus on probiotics, like how can I add a few more to the mix and improve my health? You already have trillions of bacteria, live bugs in your gut. The problem is we're not feeding them well, right? I mean, literally the stats say that less than 5% of adults in this country get the minimum amount of fiber in your diet that you're supposed to. And fiber is the primary source for prebiotics. And so that's what we're trying to do, is to close that gap, right? And so we created a very powerful, unique blend of prebiotics, in particular, a class of prebiotics called resistant starch. So naturally found in starchy plant foods, like, so think unripened green bananas, or in potatoes in small modest quantities, or beans and legumes. So this resistant starch, it's very, very good at resisting digestion, right? So it's very effective at getting into your gut, your large intestine, and feeding some really important microbes. So there's a ton of research on resistant starch and other prebiotics, but it's also really hard to get in your diet. Like, how often are you going out and chopping up a super dark kind of green off the tree banana that tastes chalky and starchy and like just dries up your mouth? Nobody's eating that, right? And so we were like, the research is so profound, like let's create our own unique blend. Right now, let's put it into delicious, tasty food that people can have on a consistent basis. And so we do have, back to your original question, so we have 3 product lines that we put this blend into. So we started with our shakes, which is very similar to traditional protein shake, but it's kind of like a 2-in-1 because we put as much of this prebiotic fiber in as we do protein. So it's a really healthy dosage of our prebiotic fiber blend. We also now put it into snack bars. And so it's a category format that people love, right? I mean, everybody loves to snack, loves a good tasty snack bar. The problem is with most snack bars, you might as well have a candy bar because a lot of them are chock with sugar. They'll spike your blood sugar and you'll be hangry like a half hour after eating. These are incredibly satisfying. They keep your energy and your blood sugar levels nice and stable. And then we've actually come out with our what we call the gut health booster, right? And so it's this prebiotic fiber mix on a standalone basis. So unflavored, unsweetened. It really allows for versatility. Most people that use the blend, the powder, will just add it to their morning coffee, right? And so that's about this concept of how can we make this habitual, just get into your everyday life. Other people will make their own smoothies or will add it to yogurt or oatmeal, really as we call it, like the add to anything blend, because we want to help turn anything into more of a gut health superfood. And so that's the 3 products that we have at Supergut.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a question. You talk a lot about the impact it has on gut. Now, there's a lot of issues. People can have H. pylori or SIBO or all these different things. Are you familiar with the impact it has on those kinds of things? I mean, they're all different, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was saying, I'd say in general, yes. Like obviously each individual condition is different and every individual is different as well. Right. We do have a lot of experience. So we do have a chief science and medical advisor, gastroenterologist who help in thinking through the innovation and the clinical validation. And he's helped address kind of the specific impact of what our fiber blend can do for different individuals, especially for those that are dealing with particular chronic digestive issues. I would say for most of them, it actually can be quite beneficial. It's something you do have to take on a case-by-case basis though, right? Because not all fibers are created equal. And some types of fiber actually can disrupt some of those digestive issues and actually make them worse, depending on how they're fermented, how they're digested, and whether or not they might cause bloating or exacerbate some of those symptoms that come with digestive disorders. One of the benefits of our blend, it actually is very well tolerated. There's actually a classification for it. It's called low FodMap, right? And so
I know that.
Okay, yeah.
But for those people that are not familiar with low FodMap, FodMap, maybe you can just explain what that is, because I'm familiar with it because on a personal level, I've had SIBO, and they've explained to me that I should have a low FodMap diet.
Yes, and that's
more and more common these days to have these experiences. So can you just explain for everyone what a low FodMap diet is?
Absolutely. And so low FodMap essentially means following a dietary path of consuming foods and things in your lifestyle that aren't going to cause your digestive issues to flare up. And one of the key indicators, in particular for types of fiber that are not low FODMAP, so the high FODMAP fibers, essentially it means they're not very well tolerated in general, and then specifically for people with digestive issues. And by not well tolerated, it means some of the things that you hear about it like exacerbates, so cause bloating or diarrhea or constipation in some. And a lot of times it's because they're very quickly fermented. They're quickly digested, like in your upper gut or even sometimes in your small intestine. And when that happens, it can cause some of these chronic digestive issues to flare up. And so on the other side, there are certain types of fiber and lots of other foods that are low FODMAP. And so they're less likely to cause some of those digestive issues to flare up. And that was actually intentional in our design, is that we actually use sources of the prebiotic fiber that, yes, they're very powerful, they're very potent, but they're also low FODMAP, meaning that they're very slowly digested and less likely to cause issues to flare up. And also you can consume them in higher quantities, right, as well, without getting really bloated and without having to run to the bathroom every 5 minutes. And so it's a more accessible type of fiber for the common public. And it also is, on a relative basis, a more accessible form of fiber for those following a low FODMAP diet as well.
Can you maybe just give us an example of a couple of items that you might find on a low FODMAP versus a high FODMAP? Things that you eat every day.
Yeah, so on our side, the low FODMAP, so our sources of fiber are low FODMAP. So bananas, when you eat them in their more unripened form, have a fair amount of fiber, resistant starch, and it's a low FODMAP type of fiber. A high FODMAP type of fiber is called inulin. Chicory root is what that's called, and so you find it in a fair amount of food products, but you can only have so much of it because, you know, a lot of people say it causes you to blow up like a balloon when you start to have too much of a type of fiber called inulin. So that's a high FODMAP.
Awesome. And these are, and for our guests, they can, you know, maybe we'll stick up the links for high FODMAP and low FODMAP so people can look that up and get a little deeper there. So, okay, so now tell me, where are you? I know this is, you know, not, you know, you're still in the early stages of this business. Where are you now, and where are you looking to go? You know, what's next?
Really good question. Yeah, really good question. So we're a couple years old. We actually rebranded to Supergut just not even a full year ago. So our brand is very nascent, even though kind of we look, you know, pretty well put together. Our brand is there. We've got good packaging, etc. We are still 100% direct to consumer business, right? So that's the only way that someone can interact or engage with, you know, our brand of our products is at supergut.com. We are very quickly expanding. That's kind of one of the biggest, you know, steps for us is to actually increase awareness and distribution, right? And so to have our products much more broadly available, because my aspiration was always about, you know, accessibility and how can we have impact at scale. And so having our products available in physical retail, right, in addition to on our website has always been part of the plan. We're at that phase now where we're like, well, our brand is ready, our products are ready, our clinical studies published. Now we just need to get our products, our brand out there and our products more available for people to try. So that's a significant shift and initiative for us is actually getting our products out there, in particular in physical retail shelves over the coming months and years. That's
exciting. And so where will you start?
Yeah, so we are.
Place you want to get into?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. There's a number of places. I would say the category that we're broadly most interested in is in the natural organic space. Okay. Right, and like so think of the Erewhon in Los Angeles. Think of your Whole Foods. Think of your Sprouts. Think of your Bristol Farms as well, another more Southern California retailer. And so it's, you know, what we've seen is that a lot of customers who are more progressive and understand the importance of gut health. That's a lot of the times where they're shopping first, at least, like they're early adopters and looking more in the natural organic space. And so we do know that that's where our early adopting customers will be. So that's where we're focused for now. That being said, I mean, you could probably hear the way I'm talking. I mean, the aspiration is much bigger, right? And we actually really aspire to have a broader impact at scale. And this is something that really should be more part of the masses, like your everyday routine. We're making them delicious, tasty, accessible. And so eventually we want to be, you know, out there in large grocery stores, right? I mean, so your Kroger's of the world, your Targets of the world, like that will be the aspiration. But I'd say that's probably more into next year and the years beyond.
Awesome. Well, that sounds super exciting. You have a lot that you've done and a lot that you're planning on doing. So
yeah,
as a fellow founder, I'm excited to see where you are today, and I'm excited to follow the journey.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Me too. It's a long ways to go. Long ways to go still.
You said you're rebranded. You've been around for 3 days. What was the impetus for the rebrand?
Yeah, and so a little bit of the background on when we first started, and it's actually a lesson learned from me. So I mentioned at the outset my inspiration, right, for starting the company, not just being my experience and aspirations, but also my sister being my personal story. When we actually started out, I actually named the brand inspired by her directly. So my sister's name was Monica, and our original brand was Munique, M-U-N-I-Q. I made it up. Like, so it was just Monica plus unique, which was her personality as well, was Munique. And obviously very, very tied to my personal story, my personal inspiration. And so much so, in fact, that a lot of our focus during our first phase that I call it, our proof of concept era, was really targeting individuals who were just like Monica, who were really struggling with their health. So not as preventative, literally more treatment oriented. So already dealing with real issues with weight and in particular with blood sugar control. So a lot of, obviously we couldn't make specific health claims, but a lot of individuals who were using our product were living with diabetes and or obesity or both. And so it really focused on those individuals who had really struggled with their health, just like Monica had. And it was very successful proof of concept on the one hand, because we saw how impactful this could be on someone who is struggling, who has tried every diet and pill and medicine and potion and actually helping them make a step change in their health. But at the same time, it became very clear that if the aspiration was to have broader impact at scale, like getting further downstream or upstream, I guess I should say, into prevention was the pathway to do that, right? The ounce of prevention worth a pound of the cure. And how can we make this accessible more broadly? Because this isn't just something that affects someone who is really struggling with their health. How can we help someone avoid getting to that point, right, in their health and their life as much as possible? We'll always and will always be there for someone, regardless of where they're on their health journey. And so if someone's struggling, it's like a no-brainer. We know this works. We proved it in the clinical, like literally you need to be using this product. But the new thinking is like, even with someone more progressive, how can we help you build your foundation for better health, which really is, as we know now, is largely in your gut. And how can we help you stay on top of your health and your performance and from a preventative standpoint? And with that's the spirit for which we rebranded under SuperGut just a year ago.
Well, it's funny. I've had a couple different startups myself, different ideas for the last 30 years. Some have worked, some have not worked.
Yeah.
We have our successes and our failures. But originally, when I was coming up with names, and I don't know if you experienced this, I would try to come up with something that was meaningful to me, personal and cool. And what I realized is you got to say what it is.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true.
Have you had that experience?
I absolutely have had that experience. And it's one of the hardest things to do, isn't it? Right. And then you fall in love with this name. You're like, oh, this is it. And then you go out and it's not available, of course. Right. And so that was also one of the learnings. I think you hit on it very well, was people were inspired when they got to talk to me and hear what was the meaning behind unique. But when they first saw it, they're like, what is this? How do I pronounce it? I'm not sure, etc. So we actually had to get through all of that before we could even talk about the product. Now, when I say it's SuperGut, oh, gut health, right? I was like, exactly. And so really saying what it is so meaningful and just allows us to get straight into what is this product and how is it different and what is it going to do in your life. So the name has really, really paid off. I think that's a good insight, Justine.
Well, we share our experiences, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We some of them are the same, some of them are different, but we're here to basically share those kinds of insights for other founders and people changing the future of food so that it can be more integrated as part of a healthy way to live, as opposed to always solving the problem because we feel sick. So I'm trying on a personal note to, food as medicine suggests that we're taking that instead of medicine. I've been trying to come up with another word.
Yeah.
It seems like you might be that perfect person, because it's really not about necessarily solving the problem. It's about also preventing the problem.
Yeah, for sure. So
Have you
food
thought
as medicine.
about this as well?
I have thought about this, and we don't use the phraseology of food as medicine in like our advertising and
Right.
But when talking about what it is, that is a way that really resonates with people, because it gives you a bit more of a mental picture of what it is that we're talking about. Food as medicine. Now, I'm not anti-medicine, but I'm very pro-food. I'm very pro-food, right? And so, like,
we're on the same page.
If we can, not just as just as a supplement, but if we can prevent the need for someone to need to take medicine, that is success, right? That's true prevention. And so the words that work for most people when they describe that is food as medicine, even though we don't, like I said, use it in a lot of our marketing materials. I tend to talk more about like functional food. And because it has that same connotation and it truly is functional and doing something for your health, but it's like true functional food, not just, saying it, because it's cool or trendy, but true function that shows up in a measurable way. So that tends to be how I talk about it, more so than food as medicine.
Yeah, I think that that's an accurate, category for it, right? Functional food. And I think that that really, it would be important for me to see that come to a place where it's more popular among everyone, right?
Yeah.
About functional food,
Yeah.
and food as medicine has become a popular term that everyone can relate to. It's very relatable because somebody put it out there and now everybody's been using it.
Yeah.
But I think that functional food, or maybe there's another word in between, can really empower people to say, hey, let me make the choice to stay healthy, right?
I think so.
If we eat too much sugar, there's studies that say that's not good for us, right?
Yeah, for sure. And the thing I like about functional food, I do see, and I think this will continue, like consumers increasingly demanding and discerning and wanting to get more out of the things that they put into their bodies, right? And so I do think that the consumer demand builds some tailwinds around this general concept of functional food. And so doing more than some of the traditional approach that a lot of, call it supplements have taken in the past, where it's just a claim without a whole lot of substance behind it. People want what they're nourishing their bodies with to actually have some function, or increasing number of them. And frankly, a lot of them are getting more into diagnostics, right? Measuring, right? To actually say, how is such and such food or supplement affecting my body, whether it's an Apple Watch or, a ring, how am I sleeping, or a Whoop band, or continuous glucose monitors through levels or NutriSense, right? I mean, to see how different things are impacting their body, I think that is only going to continue to increase this, demand. And I think it's important for brands to step up to that consumer expectation around food that has true function behind it.
Marc, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Before we go, can you just let everyone know how they might be able to access your product and where they can go about finding it?
Yeah, well, as of today, the only place to find us is on our site. So you can go to supergut.com and you can go and check out. We have a lot of the content stuff that we talked about today about the science behind Supergut. But obviously, you can go and check out our products as well, our shakes, our bars, and our fiber mix. And then we're very active across social as well. We do try to get some engaging and sometimes educational content out there across Twitter and Instagram and TikTok as well. So find us generally at Supergut. Okay.
So Marc, for those listeners that tuned into the whole podcast, that watch the whole podcast on the video cast, is there a discount we can offer them on your products?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Justine. Yes, of course. We'd love to offer a 20% off discount for any of your listeners that do come to supergut.com. Just enter the promo code NEXTGEN when you go to checkout, and you'll get 20% off your Supergut purchase.
Awesome. So don't forget to follow Marc on at Supergut. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. To learn more about these episodes and access show notes, go to nextgenpurpose.com and choose podcast. If you like this episode, head to Apple Podcasts or your favorite platform to subscribe and leave us a review. Visit the Next Gen Purpose YouTube channel to subscribe to our EI videocast and give this episode a like while you're there. Follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Next Gen Purpose, and connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram at Justine_Reichman. Thanks for joining us.